No corporate sponsorship of the council meeting, Lindell. Had to take it away.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. We'll call our meeting to order. All you have to do is say here, present, just like the kids in school today. Councillor Mason.
Present, sir.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Clary.
Present and accounted for.
Councillor Walker, we're waiting on him. Councillor Zarowski.
I'm going to put both of them on. I'm here and present, not only here or present.
There's always one. And Councillor Walker.
Hey.
Finally got
Good
in.
to see you, my good man.
Finally got in.
Boy, you're looking spiffy as ever.
Glad
Notice how the two old guys wear ties. Okay.
I'm glad to have the young fellow with us.
Yeah. Okay. Approval of minutes. Special meeting of August 26th.
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Clary, seconded by Councillor Zarowski. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary motion is carried. Approval of the order of business. Any additions or deletions? Hang tight here.
There are none, Mr.
Krista.
Chair.
I think any additions or deletions from members of Community Council?
I have about 18. Is that okay, Mr. Chair?
That's perfect. You can round down to one. Okay, so moved by Councillor Clary, seconded by Councillor Smith, that we approve the order of business. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary motion is carried. Call for declaration of conflict of interest. There are none. No hearings. Correspondence. Chris, any correspondence?
We have not received any.
Okay, petitions. Councillor Walker.
Nope.
You don't? No? Oh.
Councillor Walker, I believe you had that petition.
Do you want to present it now?
Yes. Yeah, if you can present it.
I have a petition here which I'll deliver to the clerk's office from 105 Dunbrack with approximately 100 signatures on it against the development across the street on Willett and Dunbrack.
Okay. Thank you. So you submit that and will
And
that
I'll
be
make sure
posted
the
on
clerk's
the
office gets it.
Yeah, will that be posted on the website, Krista? On our minutes?
It will be listed under our minutes, but it will not be posted on our webpage as per just our practice for how we handle council, but it will be on record at the clerk's office in case anybody.
Thought it might have been different because of the meetings.
We're still 2 meetings away from even first reading, so.
Okay.
Yep, and we'll pass that along to staff for their information as well.
All right.
Under reports, 7.1.1, case 22682, amendments to the Halifax Municipal Planning Strategy, Halifax Peninsula Land Use Bylaw, and associated second amending development agreement for 5534, 5558 Bilby Street and 2819, 2827 Islesville Street, Halifax. So that would be Councillor Smith.
Before I read it, just wondering if anything from staff, anything staff want to say, and I have no comments. We've seen this a million times.
A million?
Yeah, no. Hi, Councillor. It's Brittany McLean, planner with the Urban Enabled Application. So this one's my applications. Nothing is different from the public hearing that we had a month ago. I mean, I can give the presentation again, but if no one has any questions, this one's just for an NPS amendment for a time extension for 1 year.
All right, so I'll read the motion and then call for the question.
Thank you.
The Halifax West Community Council want to approve the proposed amending development agreement for an extension to the date of commencement of construction, which shall be substantially of the same form as contained in attached received staff report dated March 24, 2020, and to require the amending development agreement be signed by the property owner within 120 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval by council in any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be
Second, Councillor Mason.
And it's moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Mason. Any further discussion?
Call for the question.
Question being called for. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Contrary-minded? There are no negative votes. That is unanimous. Thank you. 7.1.2, case 21916, amendments to the Halifax Municipal Planning Strategy and Halifax Mainland Use Bylaw and Development Agreement for a 12-story mixed-use development at 3514 Joseph Howe Drive, Halifax. Say that would be Councillor Walker. Hang on, Russell, you got to unmute yourself, my good man.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay.
The Halifax West Community Council approved the proposed amendment development agreement for, no, wrong one. Approved
Number
the
one.
proposed development agreement to allow a 12-story mixed-use development at 3514 Joseph Howe Drive, which shall be substantially the same as set out in attachment C of the staff report dated February 12, 2020. And two, require the development agreement to be signed by the property owner within 120 days, or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner from the date of final approval of council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations arising hereunder shall be enacted. So moved.
Second.
It's moved. Councillor Zarowski seconds that. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Mason, you weren't at that hearing, so you're not eligible to vote.
Boo.
Be brave, little warrior. It's okay. Okay.
Has there been any correspondence from the public since the public hearing?
None from
Hi,
the clerk's
Mr. Chairman.
office. Sorry, go ahead, Paul.
I'm sorry. Hi, Mr. Chair. Paul Sampson from the Urban Applications Group. No, I haven't received anything since the public hearing. So the public hearing was a joint hearing held on September 7th, and it was held jointly with Regional Council. And the municipal planning strategy amendments and the land use bylaw amendments were approved by council on July 7th, and they were reviewed by the province, and they took effect on August 22nd. So community council is now in a position to make a decision on this development.
Okay, thank you. So any discussion? What we'll do is we'll do the same vote everybody at a time. If there are nays, then we'll go to a recorded vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Contrary-minded? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. 7.1.3, implementation of North End AAA Bikeway Phase 1 and West End AAA Bikeway NEWEB. Now, would that be?
It's a bunch of people, Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
all
but I'd
kinds
be
of people.
happy
Who would
put
like to
on the
do
floor.
this? Councillor Cleary, go ahead.
I move that Halifax and West Community Council recommend that Halifax Regional Council, 1, approve the implementation of 2.4 kilometers of bicycle facilities and related changes to the right-of-way along the North End All Ages and Abilities AAA Bikeway Route Phase 1 between Northridge Road and Bloomfield Street as described in the discussion section of the staff report dated July 28, 2022. Approve the implementation of 2 kilometers of bicycle facilities and related changes to the right-of-way along the West End All Ages and Abilities AAA Bikeway Route between Windsor Street, Bayers Road, and the West End Mall as described in the discussion section.
Second.
Moved by Councillor Cleary, seconded by Councillor Zarowski. Any discussion?
I do have, Mr. Chair, if you'll indulge me,
Sure,
just
by all
a
means.
couple of questions of clarification and explanation from our staff. So I know Siobhan is with us. I'm not sure if David is with us, but if perhaps Ms. Weatherby could just describe for us sort of the importance of this, the phasing that's coming in. So we know there's a phase 1 for each section of West End and North End, and the benefits of doing this, and also to just the challenges. For example, I know a lot of people were concerned that Almond Street wasn't being, as it was in the 2014 to 2019 active transportation plan. Almond Street protected bike lane isn't in here. So if Ms. Witherby could just give us an update on why it is the way it looks in this report, and when this will start, and you know, when we could see actual cyclists being safer on the roads as a result of this.
Perfect. Thank you, Councillor Cleary, and through you, Mr. Chair, to the Community Council. I will talk a little bit about the project. So We've been working for the past, it's getting close to 2 years on development of these North End and West End all ages and abilities bikeway routes. It constitutes 4.4 new kilometers of local street bikeway in the municipality. So within the North End, the objective is to connect from the tip of the peninsula, from Africville Lookoff Park, all the way down to Cogswell Street on an all ages and abilities facility. In the West End, it's connecting from Windsor Street all the way down to the West End Mall and also up to Bayers Road. So those are 2 routes that were approved as part of the integrated mobility plan, all ages and abilities bikeways within the regional center. So I'll start with the North End route. We started engaging on this project in 2018. The first round of public engagement in the North End was a little bit mixed, particularly within the neighborhood between Almond Street and Cogswell. That's a particularly unique area where there are one-way streets to deal with, and we're looking at sort of the couplet of using Maynard and Fuller Terrace and Northwood and Creighton Street as the connection down to Cogswell. And there were some concerns about changes to on-street parking, how to get across the major intersections through there, some polarized opinions. So we split it off at Almond Street because there's a little bit more work to be done, particularly in that community, to come to a solution that works for the neighborhood and suits that particular community. But for everything in the North End Bikeway north of Almond Street, we received a lot of very positive feedback from the community. So what that would entail, as described in this report, is a combination of speed tables along the route, curb extensions along the route, treatments to cross major intersections. So at Almond Street, at Young K Street, and at Duffus Street, to kind of help bicycles continue along the entire corridor. We were also looking at improvements for people walking and rolling as well within that. So we have developed kind of a 30% functional design that describes and achieves those all ages and abilities objectives. That's described in the report. And jumping over to the West End, the objective is to go between Windsor Street and West End Mall and also to Bayers Road. So that route or that connection was a little bit more challenging. We were looking at some different route options to be able to make that connection. So within the integrated mobility plan, there is protected bike lanes on Almond Street as far west as Windsor, but beyond that point, it was shown as a local street bikeway on Liverpool Street. So our job was to kind of confirm that this was indeed the preferred route. And in doing that, we looked at local street bikeways on Liverpool Street, on London Street, and also we wanted to reopen the possibility of continuing a protected bike lane facility along Almond Street and see if that was possible before we ruled it out. When we dove into it in more depth with our consultants, we found that there were some significant challenges associated with Almond Street in terms of the available right-of-way width. So the block of Almond Street between Connolly and Connaught gets quite narrow, and it wouldn't be able to accommodate 2 directions of protected bike lane. So in that case, the consultants showed an option where the sidewalk would be replaced with a wider multi-use pathway shared between people walking and cycling on the north side of the street, but that has some significant implications for the mature street trees and the buffer, and that would need to be entirely removed in order to accommodate the multi-use pathway, and even then it would be substandard without a buffer from the road. So that was a real challenge associated with Almond Street. Also some major impacts to accessible parking with that option. We ended up recommending Liverpool Street as originally shown in the integrated mobility plan, as you can make an all ages and abilities transition on the Windsor Street painted bike lanes. And we, as described in the report, we've shown a jug handle that brings the bicyclist off of the roadway and aligns them at 90 degrees. So you can see more easily in both directions, and installation of an enhanced crossing treatment that allows the bikes to stop traffic and to get onto Liverpool Street at that intersection. Similar to the north end, it involves a combination of these speed humps along the corridor for traffic calming purposes. Also, I didn't mention this in the north end, but the installation of some mini traffic circles, which is new for Halifax. We've seen it in other cities across the country, in Fredericton, in Ottawa, and Vancouver, and Victoria. So trying some of those along the corridor and making it a low volume, slow, shared corridor where the bicycles and the cars proceed in single file to make the connection. It then proceeds across Connaught Avenue and into the Westmount neighborhood, where you can go right on George Dauphney and go up to the new multi-use pathway that's currently being built on Beers Road, or you can go kind of down to the left on Peter Lowe Avenue, hooking down across Mumford into the West End Mall area. So significant connections to the transit terminal down there and kind of the Halifax shopping center jobs. That sort of thing. So having those in terms of the benefits, having those new 4.4 kilometers of local street bikeway, it really ties the residential areas of Halifax into our more significant on-road protected areas like the Windsor Street bike lane and down into North Park Street and the Common. And it really allows people to move from their communities and through their communities to downtown and to West End Mall and out on our recreational trails as far as Lunenburg and beyond. So that is great. I talked a little bit about the challenges. There wasn't always a consensus on the routing, so we did have to factor that in. The public response is one element of our review. A lot of it is sort of internal feasibility. Can we maintain it? What is kind of the other factors to consider, but we're quite happy with what we've proposed in terms of these North End and West End bikeway connections. And in terms of when it will be built, because it is such a long, the corridors are quite long, it would be phased over a few years. So we're hoping to begin construction in the North End, hopefully within the next calendar year, and sort of build from the north down as quickly as kind of the budget allows and we can design it. And then in the West End, we may start next year, we may start in 2022 and continue from the Liverpool side over to build it in that way. Jumping back to the rest of the North End bikeway route, we still have that missing piece between Almond and Cogswell, but our group is in the process of hiring a North End community engagement facilitator who's rooted in that community and can help us to connect with the leaders, get people out and meet them where they're at, and sort of reframe some of those initial conversations around bikes to building streets for people and kind of improving the road safety as a whole. And I think that's what this project does seem to achieve, because there are lots of benefits for people walking, people rolling, people living along those streets. There's the traffic calming will be beneficial. There's all these new sort of enhanced crossing areas, and it achieves a lot of our IMP goals at the same time.
Thank you, Ms. Witherby. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Smith. You're on mute. You look like a third base coach.
Who else is excited that we're going to start meeting in council again soon?
Councillor Smith, is your mic working?
Apparently not.
Now he's
There he is.
try now, Linda.
Yeah.
All right. Am I good?
Good.
Oh, okay. My computer was slowly working. So sorry for delaying them. Now let me.
We all lost your audio, man. You went back on mute. I don't know what to say.
How is it the youngest, most technical guy can't do this?
Huh.
Am I back?
You're back.
Somebody muted me. It said you've been muted, so I blame somebody in this chat. And I won't touch my computer. Really quickly, you already mentioned that regarding the north end related to Creighton and Kennard. So what I've been hearing most recently, and I've been telling folks that work will start soon, but the two intersections on north. So the Creighton north, and then the further up Fuller or Mater, whatever you want to call it, north as well. So those treatments are mentioned in the graphics, but are not mentioned in the report. So I'm assuming that we're gonna dig more deep into those treatments for that section once we actually start having the discussions and looking at the details. Is that what's gonna happen there?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, that is correct. So particularly at North Street is going to involve some very unique designs, and it's the one-way streets crossing north. They're quite close together, so we need to figure out what that looks like and how best to get people across there. But it wouldn't be, those treatments wouldn't necessarily be mentioned in this report. It's something that we're still kind of developing with our consultants and with the public based on what we hear in that next round of engagement.
Okay, great. So I'll save my comments for that. Related to the multi-use pathway for Africville. So there's two pieces, because I know that there's the Novalee piece, but then there's also the local street bikeway piece that connects down to get onto it. You know, what I've been hearing from folks, particularly who live on Novalee, is that from what they've read, is that we'll be taking land and expropriating land from them to create the pathway, which, you know, I think it'd be great if you can clear up the air, even though I'm assuming none of them are listening. But it'd be good for you to clear up the air on that piece and what that means for Novalee if we do decide to go there. And the other piece, I'll just ask them both and then listen in. Let me just scroll down here. The other question was related to Almond Street, which Sean already mentioned and got some information on that. So I am curious about the related to the development that's happening the Midtown North. I knew there was some discussions around partnerships potentially of looking at treatments while the construction was happening for that. I'm just wondering if any more discussions have happened related to that. And I don't know, at the time, there wasn't really an idea of what could happen, but I know that the developer was interested in supporting. I don't know what's come out of that. And everything else has been addressed, and I had comments around what is going to come forward in the chat. Sean, you have a motion, so I'll wait till we go there. And yeah, that's it for me for the moment.
Okay, Councilor Mason.
Oh wait, there's two questions.
I can respond now.
Okay, go ahead, Siobhan. Yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. I'll clarify a little bit. The multi-use pathway piece on Novalee, based on our functional planning, will not require expropriation of any land. We would be taking it from the right-of-way. So it may involve possibly narrowing the right-of-way and moving the curb inward to accommodate that new multi-use pathway and a tree buffer. But that's kind of a longer term project. The next time that the street is up for major recapitalization, we would think about doing that as our final piece. That's okay. And then the second question you had was about Almond Street and the Midtown North development. I believe that development is on Almond up close to Roby, so that is outside the scope of this particular project that we're proposing today, because it does end at Windsor. I might defer to my supervisor, David, because he was more involved in Almond Street east of Windsor to see what has been decided with the developer there, because I feel like there were some conversations. David?
Mr. McIsaac?
Mr. Chair, David McIsaac, Active Transportation Supervisor, through you to the councillor. Yeah, so Siobhan's right. That's kind of a separate separate planning process for kind of Almond Street east of Windsor Street. And we're still kind of working through that process with the developer and our real estate department. And that's kind of the final piece of the Almond Street protected bike lane puzzle that we're trying to plan before we come to council with a proposal for that. So it's in progress, positive discussions, I think, with the developer, but kind of a lot of moving pieces, and we still need to kind of tie those up before we bring that back to council.
Thank you, David. Councillor Smith, that good? Councillor Mason.
Oh, good. My mic's on. Never turn your mic off, I guess, is what we're all learning tonight. A couple of just comments for clarification for the record. One is if we go with Liverpool, you know, this is approved, that doesn't change. Like both Liverpool and Almond are in the active transportation plan, and Almond, I assume, would remain, just that, you know, it would not be top priority because we had put something in place to meet the minimum AAA grid. So that's one question. The second is, does this budget include signals of some kind at Windsor, Connaught, and I guess Lady Hammond, Duffus there, and Iso Lehman? And third comment, which I already said to staff earlier today, I love speed humps. They're like our cheapest thing to do. I want that on the record, that speed humps are great. We need them everywhere. And certainly my concern, like living Vernon adjacent, is that we've seen some good things with the diversion and the bulb outs, especially for pedestrian safety in this school heavy zone, but it hasn't really slowed the cars down. And then the fourth bit or question would be, when do we see phase 2 coming back? Because that's also in my area for the North End bike lane. That includes the area south of Cornwall Street is in District 7. And I feel like we're going to need some, you know, I again wanted to just emphasize for the record with both of you here, like this should be a win. The resistance we got from the residents was a lot. But the number one thing I get from residents, and I'm sure Councillor Smith will agree, is how come you haven't traffic calmed my street yet and all these cars are roaring by Joe Howe Elementary School? So I feel like there's got to be a win here, right? Like if we did the reversing one way so that you couldn't like shortcut and we put speed humps up and down those streets, I would think that the neighbors would be cheering, right? But we haven't been able to somehow sell them to that. So when does the phase 2, like just I think you said it, but I need to write it down. When is the phase 2 consultation going to happen, and so that we can have that in-depth conversation with the neighbors? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Siobhan?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor, I'll address your comments. So I'll say this for the record, Liverpool, because we're building a local street bikeway on Liverpool, or proposing it as part of this project, it does not preclude us from considering installing a bikeway on Almond Street in the future. You're correct that they are both in the active transportation priorities plan, but when we looked at the 2 routes, or the 3 routes, and the feasibility in terms of building the minimum grid within the closer timelines, Liverpool seemed like the better option in terms of having less major infrastructure impacts, and we can build it and get it in there to build that minimum grid network out, and we can see how things go in the future, and if there is desire for more cycling facilities on Almond, we'll cross that bridge at another time. And it's still on our radar, but a little bit farther out. The second question, does the budget and financial information included in the report include signals? So yes, it does. So as you can see within the financial implications section of the report, there is a low estimate and a high estimate. So the high estimate involves signalized intersections at all the major intersections. That's one of the major things that's in our toolbox right now, to be able to stop traffic and give bicycles the right of way. We're waiting on some legislation changes from the province to expand our toolbox and consider some other things. But we've given a lower cost estimate. We're still talking with our colleagues in traffic to see whether or not full signals would be warranted at all of those locations. Maybe there's another treatment that would be better, like curb extensions, pulling it in, stop signs, an RRFB that could be actuated by a bicycle. We're waiting to see if that's possible. But we just wanted to give a range, but the signalization is considered within that upper price range. Your next comment about speed humps are great. I'll say that this report considers the speed table, which is a little bit longer than the speed hump, but it has the same sort of traffic calming effect, and it's been vetted a little bit more by our colleagues in Halifax Fire. So they actually built some test speed tables and drove their fire trucks over them and are more satisfied with how that impacts their ability to provide emergency access and the speed that they can go over the speed tables, because it does make a difference for each and every one of those that they have to cross. So that's thumbs up. We're hoping to get a decent amount of those along the route. And then the last question you had was about phase 2 of the North End Bikeway and the timing. So our original timeline for when we would go out to engage between Almond and Cogswell Street was this summer and fall. That was put on hold a little bit because of COVID. We really value the ability to meet people in person for these kind of conversations, and we're trying to figure out what that means for 2021. If we wait and see once the physical distancing requirements are lifted, we could start gathering people in person. If we get a second wave, or who knows what 2021 is going to look like. So we're still kind of trying to shape what that will be with the engagement consultant, but we're kind of taking the lead from them and the suggestion from them that having in-person sessions are really important, particularly for that neighborhood. So hoping that 2021 we would come back to council maybe later in the year, but it's kind of COVID dependent and how things go with that.
Right on. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question.
Not so soon.
Oh, who's the vice chair? Steve's frozen out. Quick, take control.
Okay.
I think he said he had a power outage. My apologies. I was trying to figure out what was going on with him as well. Our vice chair is Lindell.
Oh wait, there's Steve.
He's moving. He's moving a little bit. Is he back?
There he is.
Yeah, I'm back now. The power went out down City Hall.
Okay. I was ready to take over. I was here.
Pay your bill.
Really weak. Thank you. You had me there, Lindell. Good job. Sean, you've spoken, so I'm going to go to Councillor Zarowski and then back to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the answering the questions and the overviews. I think this is amazing and wonderful and makes me feel like we're moving towards Copenhagen and Helsinki and all those other wonderful places that have been able to combine pedestrian safety with cycling safety. But out here in District 12, getting from District 12, let's say you live in Wedgwood and have to go through the Windsor Exchange, you're still toying with the idea of becoming a hood ornament as if you're a cyclist. And so the next question that I have is how long before we're able to link all the cyclists who want to make use of safe cycling lanes to the downtown? And we have Mount St. Vincent University, where students are taking things downtown at the other universities, and they need to get back and forth. So that's my first question. And then the second question is, yeah, on these cycling lanes, I've been, as I have grown older and hope to continue to grow older, I'm looking at electric assisted bikes. Will they be allowed in these bike lanes, or are they considered to be motorized vehicles? Because some of them now can travel at speeds in excess of 60 kilometers an hour. I mean, that's motorcycle range. So, and it's, I would think that that might post an issue. I saw Councillor Cleary nodding and wagging back and forth, but I'm sure he's got all the answers. But I'll pose the answers to you if you don't mind, Siobhan. And I guess that's the extent of. I've got many, many more questions, but we'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Don't think that we don't appreciate that. Thank you. Siobhan, go ahead.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Through you, Chair, to the councillor, I may defer to my supervisor, David, for this one. He knows a little bit more about the timing of the connections coming into the peninsula. If you could take this, David.
Sure, Siobhan. So David McIsaac again, AT Supervisor, through you, Mr. Chair, to the councillor. So we are working, we've got plans and projects at various stages all across the municipality. And we definitely see that sort of connection between Clayton Park, Western Mainland area, I guess we call it, into the peninsula as a big barrier right now. So you'll see a couple of things. Next year, we should have a better connection between the Chain of Lakes Trail and Fairview up through that new multi-use pathway that's being built on Bears Road. So there will be a way to kind of make the connection from the top of the hill at the top of Fairview and the mainland North Trail down and across the through Chain of Lakes and then up Bears Road and then into some of these facilities that Siobhan is talking about. So that's sort of one thing that we're working on. We are also working closely with the Strategic Transportation Planning Group, who have that big Windsor Street Exchange infrastructure project to do. And improving, we also, that project is a lot about trade connectivity and improving the movement of goods and people through there. But we're also looking at it as a big opportunity at the same time to improve conditions for walking and cycling through there. So, the planning for that is just getting underway, but I think everybody involved sees the benefit of that and sees it as sort of a once in a life opportunity to really take what is, I think you or someone said, a pretty horrible experience if you're walking or bicycling and not very safe into something that is safe and protected. Yeah. And then the only other kind of extension to that is I think you folks, council approved the Bedford Highway functional plan earlier this year, and that includes a separated walking and biking trail along the Bedford Highway that would make that connection to Mount St. Vincent and all the other places there are to go, along the Bedford Highway. So everything that you mentioned there are projects that we have in the works and are looking to get built in the next 5 to 6 years.
Okay. And just the electric bike.
Yeah, sorry about that. So e-assist, so there's various types of bikes out there, and the ones that that comply with the Motor Vehicle Act are called e-assist bikes. So really they're just pedal bikes, human powered, where when you need an extra boost heading into the wind or going up a hill, that electric assist is there. And so the guidelines and sort of the thresholds are defined by the Motor Vehicle Act, and kind of speak to the size of the motor and how fast it can go. And what I've seen is, typically a maximum speed of about 30 kilometers an hour is as high as we want to go on those sorts of things. So anything that could go 60 kilometers an hour, for example, would not conform with the Motor Vehicle Act and not be defined as a bike. So that would be something that would not be permitted in kind of a separate protected bike lane or a shared multi-use pathway or something like that.
Thank you, David. Thank you, Siobhan. That's my time, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clary, back to you. Councillor Clary?
I think we just lost him. I think a technical glitch took him away.
Yeah, we can confirm. Sorry. We can confirm Councillor Cleary is gone.
Is he coming back? I'll send him
Those kids aren't a technical glitch. They're delightful.
He just said that his computer died. He's coming back.
The timing in my household is just, oh God.
Important we normalize this because
Nothing wrong
this
with
is okay. It's totally okay.
It's
So you're normal, Krista. How's that?
Oh, absolutely. I have 3 kids. I'm ready to cry
Everybody
and laugh all at the same time.
well, let's talk about other things then.
Okay, Sean's coming back.
Is there anybody that has any other questions, Mr. Chair, or is it just Councillor Cleary?
Is there anybody who has any questions while we're waiting for Councillor Cleary?
We're not going to let segues on these paths, are we?
Richard, I see you're the only guy online. I'm sorry?
We're not going to let segues on these things, are we?
I thought you were
throwing
talking
questions
about
out
me
there
trying to
until
make a
Sean
segue into waiting for Sean to speak, right?
That's it.
I'm back.
There we go.
Thank
Sean,
you,
you're up.
Thank you. My computer
welcome.
died. I had to plug it back in and get on as quickly as possible. I might have missed the last couple of things that were said, but I just want to, before I ask my question or make my comment, so Councillor Zarowski mentioned MSVU, that area of town, the Bedford Highway Functional Plan, Windsor Street Exchange, David mentioned that. So that's awesome, and we'll connect that. And in fact, if anyone's ever tried to walk, let alone bike, but if you ever try to walk through the Windsor Street Exchange up towards the mountain, you know how dangerous that is, particularly at the ramp that comes off of Joe Howe onto the Windsor Street Exchange. So that's great that these things over the next few years will actually create a huge connection, a safe connection for people moving up in that area. Electric assist bikes, just so Councillor Zarowski knows, 8 Canadian provinces in their motor vehicle acts actually cap out the maximum for electric bikes at 500 watt output. And so that gives you about 32 kilometers an hour top speed for electric assist. And that is the max. So those can be used in a bike lane, of course. And in fact, any physically fit person can easily go over 30 kilometers an hour on a bicycle. That excludes me, of course,
Easily.
except downhill. The one thing I would like staff to address, this is something that David and Siobhan and I talked about earlier today, is the figures, the dollar figures that are in this report of the total cost. But if you could remind us, because last year we had a very, very willing federal government and a slightly less willing, but at least accommodating provincial government come to the table with some dough. So of the range of costs here for this, what percentage or how much is Halifax and our taxpayers actually going to spend on these figures?
Siobhan, do you want me to take that one?
Sure.
Oh, sorry. Through Mr. Chair to the councillor, so we, under that agreement, HRM covers 17% of the total eligible project costs. So, you know, very favorable, obviously, and the balance is covered by 50%, I believe, the federal government, and then the balance is the provincial share.
So, you know, when we look at in the report how much we're going to be spending on this, we, the municipality, is actually going to be spending only a fraction of this total cost to make this happen. And so this is one of the things that I'm very excited about, is when we look at our minimum grid in the regional center and we look at the connections we're making to Chain of Lakes Trail and other things outside, maybe even eventually, hopefully, you know, we'll have a great municipal connection to the Sambro Loop and those areas. You know, as we're doing these, the important thing to remember is right now, this is the best time to be doing it because we've got really great support from the other levels of government who are paying the lion's share of these projects. So is this exactly what I wanted? You know, I would have loved to have seen Almond Street as an east-west protected bike lane, but I understand the challenges of the amount of road width, and I understand, you know, no one wants to lose all the trees in a huge section of Almond Street. But to Councillor Mason's point earlier, this isn't the end. I mean, we still, once we get Liverpool done as a local street bikeway, we could in a few years be looking at some version of Almond Street as a protected bike lane coming down east-west. We're also getting, of course, right now, Lower Water Street, Hollis Street, South Park is about to be finished. Rainey is getting extended. When Cogswell is done, that whole area is going to be, you know, have a bike lane and bus lanes. in a few years, people may not even recognize the infrastructure that we have in Halifax. It's going to be that much better than it is right now for sustainable transportation. So, you know, I'm fully supportive of this report. I'm fully supportive of you guys, our staff, doing the job that you're doing. And I'm really supportive of the other levels of government paying for most of it. So thank you for this, and I look forward to more of it.
Okay, thank you. Any other speakers on this? Okay. Question being called for. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any contrary-minded? Okay, motion is carried unanimously. Councillor Mason, you had something you'd like to add to this?
Yeah.
Another motion?
Yes, please, Mr. Chair. So something that came out
Yes.
of that motion and the active transportation plan and the AAA bike network is that there's an opportunity to connect the existing and proposed Allen Oak to Church Dauphney through Armcrest. So I'd like to make the following motion that Halifax and West request a staff report regarding possibilities for establishing a connection from George Dauphney through Saunders Park across Chebucto to Armcrest to 3rd to connect across Connaught to Allen Oak for consideration as a candidate route for bicycle facilities in active transportation priority plan and the regional center AAA bike network project. So moved.
Second from Councillor Cleary for District 9, in which those streets reside.
So a friend of mine showed me this bike path coming up from Mumford, and I was like, wow, this is amazing.
Good
and
job.
I can't believe we've never talked about it. And we already have, I think there's RA5, like the flashing lights at both of for pedestrians at both those intersections. So a lot of signal infrastructure is already in place. Those streets already are very low volume, and the neighbors are already harassing Sean for traffic calming. So this is a mechanism to get that. I think that this would be a great opportunity for a relatively inexpensive, as far as these things ever are, pickup. So I'd ask for your support so we can have that looked at by staff.
Okay. It's has that been seconded? Councillor Clary?
The
Yes,
area
sir.
councillor quite generically seconded it, sir.
Yeah, I figured so. Okay.
Question?
Any other discussion? Question being called for. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'm not hearing any nays. That is unanimous. I believe that's it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So be it. Motion to adjourn.
I can't hear anything, so I'm assuming we get.
Motion
Me?
to adjourn.
Councillor Mason, you have your hand up. That'll
Motion to
moved by
adjourn from
Councillor Mason.
Gummo
We
Marks.
okay. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, Mr. Chair.
Siobhan, excellent
you.
job. You did a great job presenting there.
Thanks, Siobhan. Thanks, David.
Yeah,
Take care.
great job.